The first sob tore through the quiet daytime restaurant so abruptly that a couple at the window turned their heads in startle. It was the kind of sound that didn't belong in a place filled with soft jazz, sunlight filtering through tall glass panels, and the muted clinking of cutlery. It was raw, sudden, and full of shame. A young woman in a bright red dress sat alone at a white tablecloth table, her shoulders trembling as she tried to hold herself together. Her untouched plate of pasta sat in front of her, steam still swirling upward as if unsure whether it should bother rising at all. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks in two fragile lines, and her breath shook every time she tried to swallow the humiliation sitting like a stone inside her chest. Moments earlier, the man she had been waiting for, the blind date she had imagined might be her chance at something new, had walked in, looked her up and down with a flicker of disgust, muttered a shallow excuse that barely qualified as words, and left before even sitting. Not because of incompatibility or nerves. He had said it clearly enough to shatter something inside her. Too big for him. Not his type. Not worth a first glance, let alone a second. If you are watching this on Ripple of Love, pause for just a moment, like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances. Her name was Emery. 28 years old. A woman who had spent most of her adulthood trying to make herself smaller, quieter, easier, less noticeable, to avoid the sting of being judged before anyone ever bothered to know her. Growing up as an only child in a home where her mother constantly compared her to airbrushed women in magazines, Emery had learned early that thinness was praised, while softness, in any form, was seen as something to fix. She had gone through cycles of dieting and punishing workouts, through moments of bravery followed by weeks of withdrawing from the world. Yet she had come to the restaurant today with hope, wearing the red dress she had kept in her closet for months, saving it for a day she believed she might feel beautiful. Today she had dared to hope for a beginning. Instead, she was handed another ending. The waiter had walked past her table twice, pretending not to see her trembling hands. A couple nearby whispered behind their menus. Emery lowered her head, wanting to disappear into the linen cloth beneath her fingertips. The restaurant felt too bright, too exposed, as if every light was a spotlight showing her failure to the world. She tried to breathe, tried to swallow the ache rising in her throat, but the disappointment grew heavier with every second. At a nearby table, a man in his early 30s sat with his 7-year-old daughter. They had been quietly enjoying their lunch, the father watching his daughter gently sketch flowers on a napkin with a tiny colored pen she carried everywhere. The girl had the kind of gentle presence that made strangers smile without realizing it, and her father, whose eyes carried their own quiet sorrow, always softened when he watched her. His name was Rowan. A single dad who had spent the last 3 years trying to rebuild a life he once thought he would share with his wife forever. But life had other plans, and grief had left its fingerprints on him in ways that never fully faded. Still, he did his best to smile for his daughter, to protect what little innocence she had left in a world that had taken too much from them already. Rowan noticed Emery the moment the man had rejected her. He had seen her flinch, seen her shoulders fold inward, seen the way she tried to hold her breath as if stillness might hide the heartbreak cracking through her. He had been raised by a mother who taught him that cruelty, even when disguised as honesty, was never justified. And as he watched the devastated young woman now sitting alone, he felt a familiar tug in his chest, the instinct to reach out, to offer comfort where life had withdrawn it. His daughter tugged gently on his sleeve, whispering something only he could hear, her eyes flicking toward Emery with concern. Rowan gave a small nod. That was all it took for him to stand and approach the trembling woman. But Emery didn't see him approaching. She stared at the table, her vision blurred by tears. She didn't realize someone had stepped close until a soft shadow fell across her place setting. She looked up, expecting either the waiter or another curious stare, but instead found a man with warm eyes and a gentle expression standing a respectful distance away. He wasn't looking at her with pity. He wasn't looking at her with judgment. He simply looked, concerned, as if he saw more than her tears. As if he saw the person behind them. The restaurant's natural daylight outlined his figure, and she could see the hint of tiredness in his eyes, the kind only someone who had lived through his own storms could carry. He wasn't dressed like someone out to impress. He wore a simple white polo and dark trousers, the casualness somehow grounding, comforting even. Emery felt her breath catch, not because he was handsome, which he was, but because she couldn't understand why someone like him would stop for someone like her. Rowan didn't speak. He didn't sit. He only placed a calm hand on the back of the empty chair across from her, silently asking permission to join her. Emery's instinct was to shake her head, to refuse, to protect what was left of her pride. But something inside her, maybe the shattered pieces of hope, told her not to push the kindness away. She gave a small, shaky nod. He sat. The air between them felt fragile yet safe, as if the moment itself knew it needed to hold them both gently. Emery wiped her cheeks with trembling fingers, embarrassed by her red, blotchy face, by the mess she had become. Rowan kept his gaze steady, warm, and patient. In that moment, she didn't feel like a spectacle. She felt like a human being. The waiter approached tentatively, unsure if this new arrangement meant something dramatic had unfolded. Rowan simply gave a reassuring smile that sent the waiter retreating with relief. As the minutes passed, Emery felt a flicker of calm returning, though the ache in her chest still pulsed beneath every breath. She noticed Rowan's daughter peeking at them from their table, offering a small, sweet wave. Emery couldn't help but return it, her lips twitching into the faintest hint of a smile. Rowan shared bits of his story, not through polished sentences, but through the quiet heaviness in his posture, the gentle affection in the way he spoke about his daughter, the weariness that hinted at nights spent comforting a child and days spent learning how to navigate life alone. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't trying to fix her. He was simply present, fully and sincerely. Emery found herself opening up too, carefully, cautiously, like someone stepping barefoot onto unfamiliar ground. She spoke about her struggles to feel enough, about the cruel comment that still echoed in her mind, about the exhaustion of fighting a battle that no one saw on the outside. Rowan listened intently, his eyes never once flicking away from hers. The midday sun brightened outside, scattering sparkles across the raindrop-speckled windows. Somewhere in the restaurant, a soft laugh echoed. Life continued around them, but for a brief, unexpected moment, it felt as though the world had paused to give Emery space to breathe again. When the time came for him to return to his daughter, Rowan stood slowly, giving Emery a look filled with sincerity, one that told her she had value, not because of how she looked or how much space she took up, but because she existed. Before leaving, he gently placed a folded napkin beside her glass. Emery opened it with hesitant fingers, expecting maybe a polite farewell or a simple kind note. Instead, she found something she never expected, an invitation, not in the romantic sense, but a deeply human one. It was a small gesture encouraging her not to give up on herself. His handwriting was steady, thoughtful, as if each word mattered. She felt her eyes sting again, but this time, the tears carried a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. If this story touched your heart today, Ripple of Love invites you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to support more stories of kindness and healing. Before the final closing, please leave a comment about the moment that moved you the most. Emery sat by the window, watching Rowan return to his daughter, feeling something inside her shift. The humiliation of moments earlier was still there, but now it rested beside something gentler, a small, fragile spark of hope she thought she had lost forever. She realized that healing sometimes began not with grand gestures or sweeping romantic moments, but with quiet kindness from someone who understood pain. As she breathed in deeply and let her shoulders relax for the first time all day, she felt the beginning of a new chapter writing itself within her, a chapter where she wasn't invisible, wasn't unworthy, wasn't too much or not enough. She was simply Emery, and that was finally starting to feel like it might be enough.